Bom dia, Portugal!
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.
Hola, bon dia, alegria. Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show, a live stream and podcast. And I'm minus a banner. I knew there was something this morning. How are you today? Got a message from Bobby. He's done his back in. So I think he's on his way to the chiropractor this morning. We've got actually, I'll roll a bit of VT in the background so you can see what's going on at Herdad de Mayo as we say a few good mornings this morning. So we've got the doc at around 9:30 and a new guest this morning. It looks like a VIP arrival, doesn't it? And the royal procession arrives at the site of Herdad de Mayo with concrete rolling gently in the 8-wheeled vehicle, majestically riding across the plains of construction. Looks pretty amazing. Good drone work, Pedro, as well. If you've been to any of our Englishmen and Irishmen walking into a bar filmings, you'll have met Pedro. Turns out he's a drone pilot as well now. Fantastic. So I'll let that run in the background. Look at that. The work continuing at a pace now over at Herdad de Mayo. You try saying it. Just south of the of Lisbon, of the capital there. I'm quite taken. I'm not concentrating. I can't focus while this is going on in front of me. Good morning to you, James, to you, Michael, Antonio. Buddy's here as well. Buddy's in Ceia. Fantastic. Hola, bon dia from a cloudy Ceia today. How are you? Yep, still cloudy here in Portugal. João van Groningen, bon dia a todos. Good morning to you. Lovely to see you here. Milane, of course, and Coach Turner in so far. And a few lurkers. Who's lurking there in the background and not saying who they are? It would be Maria. Maria Galvão, bon dia Portugal from the UK. Fantastic. How are you, Maria? Lovely to see you here. I do not believe we've met. Muito prazer. And maybe you can help us this morning with us learning Portuguese. Maria Galvão, who I believe might be Portuguese. Here's your lesson for this morning. Thank you to João F for this. Hoje vamos representar uma tragédia de William Shakespeare. Hamlet? Very good. Thank you, João F, for that. Other memes and visual gags to follow. While I'm there, actually, tomorrow evening, coming up Thursday, as well as our own Colin Ross Jones, talking about motors and bringing a new gentleman to our community who's a car reviewer here in Portugal and will be reviewing a smart Audi, as well as Heather Binder. Tomorrow morning as well, boots on the ground, Portugal, Heather Binder. In the evening, essential tips of buying and driving a car in Portugal. That's led by Jerry Lawler over there. And he'll also have a Portuguese fella who's a bit helpful, very helpful when it comes to supporting people buying cars here in Portugal as well. So it's all about the motors tomorrow. Do join us. And of course, the Dream Team session from 9. Look at this. Backing up the truck there. I can hear it in my mind's ear. Can't you? Beep. Beep, beep, beep. All right, whoa, you're all right, you're all right. That's it. Stop it. Whoa, 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 whoa. There. And coming on very nicely at Herdad de Mayo there. Look at that. Quite incredible. Who else has come in this morning since we've been talking? Oh, we've got Maria, I think, saying good. Maybe I don't know if you're saying good, if that's an appraisal of my Portuguese language skills. I hope it is. João Ernesto, I hope you're recovering very nicely. Had the surgery yesterday for the cataracts, and had quite the amazing mask. You look like a Marvel superhero last night, Joao Ernesto. Keep that eye rested. Keep up with the drop schedule, and I'm sure all will be well. Fingers crossed for some successful surgery there. So well done, Joao Ernesto. Let us know how that went. Maria saying to us, sim, sou portuguesa alentejana, an Alentejanian. Fantastic. Or Alentejanes, is that how you would describe yourself, Maria? Lovely to see you here. Thank you. Paul also in from the Algarve, further south from the Alentejo. Greetings from a warm and sunny Algarve. Temperature low, 23 degrees centigrade today, but sunny. Okay, the weather's improving here, isn't it? We will get our 300 days of sunshine, or the equivalent thereof. Top tip, expect to pay top dollar for a car that would be scrap in the UK, or this or other European car price, then triple it and add 3. Ooh. Pete, not at all happy about the motoring retail price index of Portugal here. Talking of motoring, I'm going to roll up a motoring and pet care public service announcement for you now. Okay, this is quite important. Cats seem to like getting into cars at the moment. It's not too hot, but I think they like the greenhouse effect. So imagine my surprise yesterday when I looked in the rear view mirror of my motor car to find a cat sat in the child seat of the car, looking back at me in the way that cats do. Like, with that "I'm going to kill you" look on my face. You better not be driving this car. I've just managed to get myself in a nice comfy position. So, okay, we get the cat out of the car. And then a little bit later on, I'm out doing a little bit of I'm going to see a man about a dog. Funnily enough, that's what people used to say, isn't it? Does anyone still say that? Oh, cataract surgery was exceptionally successful. Thank you. Are you able to focus yet in that eye, John? What are the? Can you say anything about the results, the clarity that's come from the procedure? Excellent news, as Antonio is saying here. So anyway, I'm out seeing a man about a dog, and then this happens in the back of the car, and you'll notice it's not the same cat as in. So I'll show you the cat from the first picture, which is a tuxedo, black and white cat. I think they're known as, aren't they? A tux there in the back of the car while we're trying to get ready to go out. I go out on a separate mission a little bit later on, see a man about a dog, and this happens. So the tabby got into the car on the second journey out of the day. So obviously I return home and take the tabby. We're all laughing. Oh, the tabby. Isn't that amazing? Tabby got in the car, came for a journey. And so take us Jenny, took Jenny back. She's the one who turned up on the doorstep, who has had some behavioral challenges, let's put it that way. And she's calmed down a bit now. She's turning into quite a nice cat. But every now and then, there's a little bit of a reference to the wild days of the streets, where she'll lash out and be quite unpleasant, actually. Although less and less of that as she makes herself at home in our house. So I drop her back home, and I set off again on my mission to go see a man about a dog. And then this happens. The other cat is also in the car, but hasn't shown out thus far. There you go. And we've made some progress. We're half a mile away at this point, and I'm thinking I better not open a window. I think I had opened a window at that point, and then I hear the cat must have been woken up by the rushing of the breeze into the back of the vehicle. So I thought I better do the window up pretty quickly. And then I have to take him home, take Ollie home. Taxi for Mr. Ollie. Oh, you're already in it, and I have to drop him off home, much to the amusement of Mrs. M. When I get home with Ollie the cat as well. So be careful at the moment. Cats like to get into the greenhouse effect warm of your vehicle, and they stay there. It would appear some of them do, even when you've started your vehicle, until they find it a little bit difficult. Ollie didn't. He was fine, but I thought I better take him back because at some point get out of the car. I didn't want him getting out of the car in a different part of town. Jenny not so happy with being driven around town and making herself known in the back. But be careful. Cats like to get into the cars. And of course, if they get into the car while you're unloading your shopping and you shut the car and it gets hot, that's not going to be very nice for the cat, is it? So be careful. Check the car for the cats, or leave the windows open if it's on your carport or something like that. Wow. Okay. You're very welcome. Visual memes to come from James this morning, and one from me as well. Did I open the show with this one? I did, didn't I? Now, this, I think we can take this and run with it. When you can't afford to go anywhere, but all your friends are posting cute vacation pics. There's a Portugal angle here, which is, we normally have the bragging rights, don't we? Not when it comes to football. Oh my God. Anyway, through to the next round. No, we usually have the bragging rights with the weather, and you can simulate being on holiday. You don't need to do this, do you? With the occasional showing of the sun here in Portugal, you can get to the beach. So you don't have to do what these folks are doing, which is to go to the nearest builder's yard and create themselves a little beach scene at the sand bay of the builder's yard. What I'm thinking here is we need to perhaps, if we're sending pictures home of our new lives in Portugal with sunshine, we probably need to go into they don't have sunbed tanning shops here. They don't need them here in Portugal. How can we simulate that for the folks back home so we end up with some nice sunshine in the background? I don't know, maybe fly to England at the moment, where I understand the weather is much better. Oh, yikes. Okay, so I think that picture's improving. Was that 3 consecutive trips for the same destination with the cats? No, the first one was the cat. We realized the cat was in the child seat because a child needed to get into that child seat. So the cat, Ollie, was put out, but it was 2 trips thereafter with cats on board. Unbelievable. Good to know the news, João Ernesto, wishing you a speedy recovery from Milan. Yes, my other eye, surgery in 2 weeks was my good eye comparatively, but now, blimey, I'm shocked at how accustomed I was to a slightly dingy yellow world. I am so pleased. It's the opposite of rose-tinted specs right there. Right, I better get on with it because we'll have Stewart Noakes joining us soon. He of Canopy. He's in touch with all manner of entrepreneurs here in Portugal. I feel naked without my ticker tape going across the bottom of the screen. I wonder if I can... let me just put I can't cut and paste such things there. Let me see if I can find I'll tell you what, I'll put a quote in to go. No, I won't, because then it'll be there for the whole show. If you want to send me something on 913, why don't you write the ticker tape for me this morning? 913-590-303. Send me something to put into the ticker tape, and I'll do that presently. Okay. In the meantime, let's go to Coach Turner, who's wishing us a bom dia, meus amigos, e feliz quarta-feira. A quiet day here in the UK, though it's still warm. It's about 20 degrees already, although due to cool a little tomorrow. Cleaning windscreens later. Is that for the bugs? God's God tip of the day. The bugs are back on the windscreens. Isn't that great? Well, not for the bugs. I've mentioned before that walking is the best exercise for all of us, for us. As we age, even a gentle stroll is beneficial. Isn't that a lovely word? Stroll is beneficial. Very droll stroll of an evening, but there is plenty of evidence that the faster, the better. It's like life. No, it's not. 30 minutes a day of brisk walking is sufficient. Stroll, brisk, these are lovely words, is sufficient to have a benefit, though is unlikely to make a difference to your weight. For that, you need an hour or more. That should offset a couple of glasses, and not the sort that João Noakes might be using for the time being. Glasses of wine, I think he's talking about. Oh, I had a couple of glasses of beer last night, and a bottle of beer, whilst we were having a lovely time. Barack and James and Sarah hanging out last night at 8:30. That's the online social where we encouraging. I think it's the only online social in the week, school day, where we encourage drinking and food and fornication. No, just drinking Portuguese wine, beer and food, trying things, bit of troubleshooting, a bit of hanging out, a bit of chewing the fat, which can happen sometimes when you get a bifana. Bom dia, Gampers, or a prego, even more so. Feliz carta a todos, como estão, from the old guy in Europe. Mindful moment. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The latter procedure, however, is disagreeable and therefore not popular. Yes, the old shadow work. Thank you, Jung, for that. Mindful dad joke via James, of course. Someone asked me if I had plans for the fall. It took me a moment to realize they meant autumn, not the collapse of civilization. Hey! I forgot to put a ticker tape up, so I'm letting James provide one. Okay, that's perfect. That's perfect for now. So if you actually also for 50 euros, you can advertise here this morning. How about that? How resourceful and spontaneous. Okay, that's James's. No, it's meant to be a ticker tape, Carl. Come on, get a grip, man. It's a scroller. There we go. Or is it? No, I've messed. No, okay, I'm pressing the scroll button now, and there you go. And annunci aqui is what I should put, shouldn't I? I think that's the right. Let me know, please, Antonio, if this is the right if this is the right Portuguese. So I can. How about that? Let James have his moment for a moment. I forgot to put a ticker tape up on my show, so I'm letting James provide one. Thanks, James, for that. And we'll come back to annunci aqui in just a moment, which I think is correct, because I've seen it quite a few times on empty billboards driving up and down the motorways here. Brilliant. I do like that one. Plans for the fall. Anyone else got plans for the fall? Good morning, Gumpers. Feliz quarta-feira. And bon dia, Ian, James, and Antonio Milan working in the room this morning. Morning thoughts. I might be seeing Nunu. Nunu, I think, is coming along to the meetup in San Martino de Porto this lunchtime at Palmeira, 1 till 3. Rivers know this. There is no hurry. We shall get there someday. That's A. Milne. Stu's just getting ready behind the scenes. Thank you for that, Milen. And Rivers know this. There is no hurry. We shall get there someday. That I don't know if that's the sort of advice that Stewart gives to entrepreneurs or not. A new health system in Lisbon, the IPO, the IPO, Instituto Português de Oncologia, launched a cinema room in the hospital for the children under oncological treatment to have a joyful time there. I wonder what else we can do for them, poor little souls there. But that's a good move at the IPO there. And yeah, Baddy's in. Great to see you, Baddy. How are you? João von Groningen, bon dia todos. Thank you for being here, Maria Galval. Where do you live in the UK? In my native UK there. And yes, I am looking, Mrs. M on all fours behind me. Not now. Yes, I am looking for a car, but car prices are like property in the Algarve. So looking north where prices and choice are more plentiful. You are so lucky, Carl. Try having a cat in a carrier on a London bus and watch the wee roll all the way down from the back seat to the driver. Sounds like Pete feels the pain of that previous experience. I heard a really good. What are you looking for, Mrs. M? You transported 3 kittens on a cat box in Portugal, didn't you?
Yes, and a baby in a carrier.
And a baby in a sling. What a woman! What a goddess! Was that 3 consecutive? No, it was just the 2. It was just the 2 there. Quality of football in Orcus, quite stunningly good. 5-a-side competition is about a Google more exciting than watching England. It was dismal, wasn't it? But they are through. It was definitely a Southgate kind of victory, was it not? I always thought our bedroom dresser was an off-white sort of beige color. Turns out it's flipping plain white. You should be the poster boy for cataract surgery. They should sign you up for that, Joao. Yes, I'm in contact with dealers. Mind you, part exchange prices are as bad as the South as well. So I think you should tune in tomorrow morning and tomorrow evening for the various webinars that we have. Yeah, and that funny. I gave up my seat for a woman on the bus, and now I've lost my job as a bus driver. Right, let's give him a nice big round of applause. I wonder if he likes an old dad joke like that. And bring him onto the screen, Stewart Noakes, everybody, of Canopy. Nice, Stu.
Hey, buddy, how are you? Nice to see you.
And nice to see you too. Got your email yesterday from Canopy as a new project, I think, isn't there? Or a new iteration of what you're doing. I thought I'll give Stewart drop him a line, see if he wants to come on the show. I think this is the first time, isn't it?
It is, my friend. It is. I think you've had Chitra here a few times and stuff, but yeah, first time for me.
Absolutely.
And you'll never guess where I am today. I'm in Exeter.
You're really back in Zagreb in Devon.
Yeah, and I'm actually at the Marriott at Sandy Park next to the rugby ground, looking out at the view.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Well, do give my love to the old place. And that's where we met, of course, probably 8 years ago, I think. And then in the early days.
Longer,
when I was working with our mutual pal, Mike Brodie, on Our Net. And I got to meet you. And I got to meet some amazing people. You are part of the entrepreneurial spirit and excitement here in Lisbon, of course, and have been for some years now. And we got to go to the most amazing places with you and meet incredible people. How's it all going?
It's going good, thank you. It's going good. We just, I don't know how much you've kept up with what we've been doing in London recently, but we had a very exciting thing for us. So we took a little bit of Portugal to London a couple of weeks ago during London Tech Week, and we did one of these Canopy demo nights in the city of London with City University at Bayes Business School.
Right.
And we had a whole mix-up of stuff. But as a result of that, we had the Lord Mayor of the City of London come and anoint us and everything, and encourage us to do what we're doing. And we now have been commissioned by City University to repeat this for every month for the next 12 months. So we are connecting Lisbon and London together through the entrepreneurial networks, which is very exciting. So every month in person, there will be a demo night in one of the City University premises. They've got 2 incubators and Bayes Business School right there in the City of London. And we are now also aligned with the very English terms of the worshipful gentleman. So these kind of corporation of the City of London entities, the one for entrepreneurship and the one for IT and consultancy, are now there to help us to do what we're doing. So all sorts of exciting things, really. Yeah, really pleased. Yeah, and it's an absolute blessing of an opportunity and a great bridge. And the really cool thing, Carl, is that we've already had 3 companies from Portugal, health tech companies from Portugal, register for demo nights in September and October to test out the UK market. They're going to come over from Lisbon, from the health tech accelerator that they're in, do their demos in the City of London, see what traction they get, and then potentially use that as an entry into the market space, because we can land companies into the incubators there, one's for social enterprises and for impactful things in Islington, the borough of Islington particularly, and one's for ventures. And obviously it's all aligned with City University, so it's a proper landing place with lots of great academics and access points and stuff all around it.
That's superb. Really, really good to hear.
I'm a bit of a geek for this stuff, Carl. I really do love it.
I know you are. I mean, you are the man when it comes to networking for people who are trying to get businesses off the ground. Is that an idea? Is that how you would distill the work of Canopy and yourself?
I don't really. It's a really good question, Carl. How would I put it? Like in my own thinking, right?
Your elevator pitch, Stu. You must say this to your entrepreneurs. You need an elevator pitch. What's yours?
It's pretty lonely being a founder of a company. And what Canopy really is a place where you can come together with other kind of like-minded souls who are all building stuff and creating stuff and going through this kind of journey. And you can help each other. You know, what Matt and Kelly had for their original DNA back in Boston was entrepreneurs and innovators come in all shapes and sizes from all walks of life. And what you find, particularly in the US where we started, was you get a lot of silos where it's a particular type. And what Matt reckoned was we could do some really big stuff and solve some really wicked problems if we just brought the DNA together, rather than say you have to be a health tech guy or you have to be a government person, but actually bring you all together. And so it's a very inclusive community that embraces we'll call it slightly insane DNA of being a founder or an entrepreneur and innovator, but then bringing us all together. And what we did originally in Boston, which we try to do elsewhere, is to then say to that group of people, once we've brought them together and made it a collegiate environment, is to say, do you know what, there's some really big stuff around here that we might take a look at. So what Matt was doing 8-10 years ago was saying, homelessness in Boston, do you guys even know what it is? You know, wandering around here with all your tech things going on, you know, we actually looked out the window and seen what this is, and then let's look at that system and see what we could do to help it. Algorithmic discrimination was a topic he had out on the table 8 years ago.
Wow, algorithmic discrimination. I think we all feel like we suffer from that, right?
Yeah, there's an ageism thing, there's all sorts of things, right? But particularly because the algorithms were being built by white young men who didn't realize the bias that they were instilling to it. And Matt was out there talking about this with our community like 8-10 years ago and really getting it on the table, and people were looking at him very quizzically and like, you're all very similar and you've not really thought about people over here, right?
Well, I think it's fair to say, isn't it, the world is being created in the image of those young tech guys. Everything we do now has come from how they want to live their lives, like, you know, ordering a pizza by Uber Eats and ordering an Uber and ordering things from Amazon. That we live in their world, really, don't we? I think David Byrne from Talking Heads said that.
Well, absolutely. And this is another nice part of the Canopy manifesto, is that we try and create a zero barrier to entry for people, which enables people from all sorts of different demographics to come and be involved with entrepreneurship. And this is actually one of the main reasons why we're aligned with City University as well. So they're the #1 university in London for what's called social mobility.
Yeah.
And the mission here, the combined mission, the join up, is how do you use entrepreneurship as a tool for social mobility? And it's deeply rooted in something I passionately believe about, which is great entrepreneurs basically find something that annoys them, fix it for themselves,
Yes.
and then fix it for other people that look like them, and then look around and see if anybody else cares enough to pay some money for it.
Wow.
And if you are an excluded demographic, as in you don't have access to entrepreneurship or the tools or the networks or the help, you don't start fixing problems for yourself and solving them for your community. And it's a non-virtuous circle. So part of our manifesto is, and the reason demo nights are free to attend, for example, and not ticketed and not paid for, is you can walk in here from whatever background, whatever walk of life, and you can get some help. And there'll be other people here who will not just say, oh, it's nice that you're here, but will actually practically help you to start your journey or to be more successful in the journey as a result.
That's really, really wonderful. And when I first met you this side in Lisbon, and you were showing us around the startup culture of Lisbon, you could be forgiven for thinking like, well, you know, every place has its moment. This was 2017, and you know, fashions come and go, and it won't always be like this in Lisbon. But actually, it looks like Lisbon has held on to that spirit.
And accelerated, absolutely.
So give us a sense of how exciting it is in Lisbon at the moment to be an entrepreneur and come and create your startup there.
Look, we're all in our own bubble, right? But what I love about Lisbon as a community is because we were able to start doing things like demo nights at a time when the startup ecosystem was really growing, and I was involved with Fabric of the Startups and everything when Web Summit arrived into the country. And so over like 3 years of running monthly demo nights and promoting the kind of culture and the things that we have in our bubble, what we found was a really collegiate, a really enriching, a really mutually supportive culture that embraced really 5-40. These were not just visiting Portugal, but people who then who grew up in Lisbon or in Portugal, who come from north, south, east, and west to be part of these demo nights. And we saw this kind of growing, supportive culture that really helped people to create things and really helped them to try. And really in keeping of that spirit that João Vasconcelos really espoused right at the beginning, which was to say, be brave, be bold, start something in Portugal, you know, try and rebuild the economy type stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah. So this is a really great example, right? So what you've got here is people like Helga, who've moved to Portugal in the last 10 years and do some great stuff. You've got Chris from the British Portuguese Chamber of Commerce. You've got Elizabeth next to Helga and Chris, who's over from London. She runs an accelerator program called 1,000 Black Voices, which focuses purely on Black founders all around the world. Over on the right-hand side, you've got the Taiwanese ambassador to Portugal, who's come and he said he'd give us 5 minutes to open up the demo night, right? And he ended up staying for the entire evening and being involved in everything. And he's there because we're working with the Taiwanese government program called GCamp, and they come to Web Summit in Lisbon and we help them to land and be part of everything. And the guy in the middle, he actually runs a startup TV channel in Taiwan, and he recorded a load of interviews with founders and stuff during that event and put that out on Taiwanese TV. So we're actually on like the 6 o'clock news and stuff in Taiwan.
Amazing.
Dead bizarre.
Amazing. Good work.
And that's just the front row of that group, right? So it's really demonstrating just the power of being diverse in your thinking, in your groups, in your ways of collaborating, not just being like this siloed niche of tech bros.
That happens, doesn't it? And you occasionally you help in peeling the founders away from their businesses, because they're on all the time, aren't they, trying to make their business work, and you give them a little bit of a retreat from that and some good value in the meantime as well. Stu, will you come back? I mean, I'd love to see you on a monthly basis, and why not bring a young entrepreneur or an old one as well? I mean, let's not be
How old are you now, Carl? I'm 51 now. I'm starting to feel my age. How old are you?
I am 50. I'll be 59 next week.
Congratulations.
Yes,
Very
thank
good.
you. Yeah. Thank you. And so bring a whippersnapper, or bring well, we could bring Mike Brody back, couldn't we? As a senior entrepreneur, but bring someone with you. If you'll join us, and if they want a little platform here on the Good Morning Portugal show on a monthly basis, it'd be great to see you more regularly.
Hey, that's a really kind offer, Carl. I would love to do that. And I'll. Would you prefer founders who are based in Portugal or coming to Portugal, or would you like other?
A Portugal connection would be awesome. Would be really good, and it's going to be better value for them because they're going to get a little bit of, you know, a lot of the folks who tune in live here or are moving here, and they can get a bit of Portugal specific market research as well while they're here.
Yeah, I'd be very happy to do that. Thank you, Carl.
That is wonderful. Okay, a new slot then, the Canopy slot, canopy.community, all the W's, canopy.community to find Stewart and this wonderful community of people who are launching businesses here in Portugal, well, all around the world, in fact. But as it happens here, Portugal's version is the Lisbon Canopy community. So, Stu, great to see you. Really, really pleased you could join us, and lots of love to Exeter and Devon and the UK this morning.
Thanks, Carl. See you later.
All
Thanks,
right,
everybody.
All right,
bye,
cheers.
Bye.
Bye for now. Right, there goes Stu, and there goes that Canopy community. And let's bring Astrid on before we speak to the doc this morning. Where's that applause? There it is. Hola, bon dia.
Bon dia, Carl.
Good morning. Have you recovered from Porto yet? There was a
Porto
meetup, wasn't there?
It was so much fun. Great turnout, lots of people, and met some amazing new people. And then we headed off, or the small group of us, Hank and Connie, well, not Connie because she was away, but Hank and I, and headed off for dinner afterwards. So it was very, very good.
These expats Portugal meetups are a proper blowout, aren't they? A bit of lunch, or probably drinks on arrival, then a bit of lunch, then an afternoon snack, and then dinner, and then get caught in a storm and a flood. They're quite epic dudes, aren't they?
They're great, and they're growing, and they're a lot of fun, and a great way to pull the community together to obviously network and make new friends, and it's all good.
Brilliant. Okay, and looking forward to, this was last Thursday, of course,
yes.
And tomorrow night we've got a very exciting, for those, people have already been complaining about buying cars here in Portugal this morning on the screen here on the Good Morning Portugal show, Astrid. This will be a help to them tomorrow night, won't it?
Yes. So we're going to be, obviously, buying a car in a foreign country could be different to your home country. So if you are already living here in Portugal or about to move and you're interested in, and you will be buying a car, then there's all the tips and tricks so you can have a smooth purchase.
You can work your way through the gears of car ownership, and because that is one of the things to get used to. You can get automatic gearboxes here, but you might be making a transition back to stick shift, some of you Americans, and the cars of your youth.
Automatics are hard to find. I can only drive an automatic car, Carl. I don't know how to drive a manual. Yeah, and I have a girlfriend in hospital at the moment, and she contacted me to move her car because she thought she was only going to go in for a quick procedure, but she's in there for a week. And I felt really helpless because I can't move your car because it's I can't drive a manual car.
That's amazing, isn't it? So you learned on automatics, obviously, and did the automatic test. Wow. Okay. Well, if I'm in the air, I'm very glad to help. And I think that will be just one of the topics that will come up tomorrow night. But the main thing is about buying, isn't it? And is there a special guest joining us tomorrow night as well, who knows a thing or two about this, as well as Jerry, obviously, who knows a thing or two?
Well, Jerry's the car fan here, so he's doing the presentation, and then we have a special guest, João from Rosy Car, who's actually. You've heard of buyer's agents for real estate before. Well, he's a buyer's agent for purchasing a car. So if you want to, you're a bit overwhelmed with the whole market and want to know what's out there, you give him the brief of what kind of car you would like, and he'll go and do all the work for you and come back with options. So it's a idea.
How very reassuring. Rosy Car, that's interesting. I thought it sounded like Rosa Car, which are what we call police cars back in the UK, but Rosy Car, not Rosa Car. Rosy Car. Did you say Pedro? Is that his name?
João.
Oh, João, I beg your pardon. So João is joining. I'm getting these Duarte's, Pedro's and João's mixed up on a Thursday night. I did that last week. Yeah, okay. So thank you very much. And the Dream Team, of course, at 9.
Yes. All
right, fantastic. Thanks for popping in. Have a lovely day. How's your weather? Just quickly, before you go, how's the Cascais weather this morning?
It's due to rain soon.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Overcast.
Okay, all right. Thanks for that. Okay, all right. Cheers.
Not so great.
All right, bye for now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye. And we will keep the applause going. Look who's here, the doc. It's so hot in Leiria that he's got to keep the shutters down. Isn't that right?
It's more for the lighting balance.
How is the weather there?
Grey.
Cool. Oh my goodness. What's going on, Doc? Come on.
I'll tell you exactly what's going on. Right. We had 2 beautiful sunny days, and then Alicia came with her friend from the UK and brought the cloud with her.
Right. And they've got amazing weather at the moment, I'm hearing.
They have, yeah.
Incredible.
However, you know.
Oh, well, all right. Not like us Brits to moan about the weather. So let's moan about something else, shall we? Let's How are you? Tudo bem?
Oh, I'm good, thank you. Yes, tudo bem. Well, mais ou menos.
Right, nice use of the Portuguese there, which means more or less, mais ou menos. It's a good phrase to have up your sleeve there. Yeah. We might talk about the upcoming British election. You know, it's with mixed feelings that I approach any political talk. And you're famously quoted, aren't you? As if you don't do politics, politics will do you. In a way, it's good to have a little bit of an inkling or an idea of what's going on. And in many ways, there's no escaping the political action around the world this year. I believe you may have a word or two to offer about the recent or the upcoming French election. Has it been triggered? And that's as a result of the European election. So what went on with the European elections, Doc?
Well, the European elections saw an anti-establishment vote, which a bit like the election of Trump a few years ago was focused on mostly the right wing, the insurgent right wing across Europe, and particularly everything north of the Pyrenees, anyway, northeast of the Pyrenees. I mean, it's not because everyone suddenly feels the right thing to do is to elect a bunch of proto-fascist, anti-immigration politicians, but the mass of Europe are suffering, and no one else is giving them any potential answers. The traditional social democrats and the socialists have not been particularly forthcoming with solutions, and so, as happens always historically, going right back to the beginning of the last century, the working class, as I shall call it, and some will call me a dinosaur for using such terms. The working class get seduced by the idea that if we can elect a government that will suppress the minority, then the majority will come out better economically, without actually looking at what the economic policies of the right wing will do. And the reason the French elections were snap called by Macron, because Marine Le Pen, daughter of that horrible, I've forgotten his first name, Le Pen of the French National Front. Marine Le Pen won that election, the European election, and so Macron effectively decided to call the bluff of the electorate and say, really, I'm going to test this and you can tell me what you really think. And the result is difficult to call. The left in France, uncharacteristically, all managed to get together and form a single platform.
What?
Which is good.
That is a lesson to lefties the world over, isn't it? Because you hear about the
Judean Popular Front. No, People's Front of Judea and blah blah blah. And all that old story.
Also, the sort of lefty organisation, as it's characterised sometimes in the UK, is like the Circular Firing Squad. And it gets a little bit insular, and they're having their own infighting, aren't they, without thinking about the big picture sometimes.
We have a saying amongst the left in the UK that the left will eat itself. Yes. And
you're meant to be eating the rich. You're meant to be eating the rich, not each other.
Well, in defence, many on the left will say, well, it's because we on the left have principles, whereas those on the right don't.
Oh,
and so the left fracture over principles.
that's also, I think, what gives you the reputation for having the moral high ground.
Absolutely, you had a well-deserved reputation. Yeah, so that's how the album goes. So in France, it's difficult to say what's going to happen. The left have actually started to pull together, and we'll be challenging. It looks as if they'll be challenging the right wing for the highest share of the vote, but it'll be interesting to see what happens in terms of forming a government. And the reason I think the French election is more important to us in Portugal than the English election is because the English election, the Westminster Empire, the UK election, is that, of course, what happens in France is going to affect the European Union. What happens in Britain is no longer relevant to most of us in Europe. It's a tiny little country across the channel with whom we have a decreasing amount of trade. But in Europe, of course, it's possible it's possible that right-wing parties are going to sit on the European Council of Ministers, which have an impact on European legislation, particularly on migration. And there are those on the right in Europe who are starting to say, oh, well, just because you've got nationality, if you weren't actually born here, then we can discriminate against you. A bit like the Brits did a long time ago, when passports, which used to always give a right of residence, suddenly were or were not stamped with the words, the bearer has the right of residence in the United Kingdom. And some British passport holders actually had passports which don't give residence rights. And that kind of movement is happening now among the right in Europe. Bearing in mind the number of French Portuguese or French Portuguese who are economically active in France but send money back to Portugal, were they to be prevented from working or living in France, we would see a large number of people potentially coming back to Portugal, a disruption in the flow of capital to Portugal. And the other policies that are likely to be affected would be the green policies. You saw right-wing parties picking up a lot of support among the farmers when they were pushing back against the green policies recently. So that's why I think the French election is more important for us in Portugal than the British election, even though I allegedly have a postal vote which I have yet to see and probably isn't going to arrive in time for me to return it on time.
It's a conspiracy. CCT.
Voter suppression.
Well, it's very interesting. You should give us that particular angle and context, because that hadn't occurred to me. I mean, there is a joke, isn't there, in Portugal? Is, what's the second biggest Portuguese city? And it's Paris. Paris is the answer to that. And that hadn't occurred to me. Yeah, if there is hostility towards Portuguese residents, workers in France, that will have an impact, won't it, back here in Portugal, which is fascinating and worrying at the same time. Liz F, I think, who lives in Paris. Yeah, hello, good morning from Paris. Yes, we're in a proper mess over here. You're not alone, Liz. You're not alone. It's a dangerous reality. Thank goodness the left did agree to get together, which was a miracle. Not without its most tremendous. Yeah, I mean, so this has been a sobering time then for the left, has it? Who've just thought to themselves, look, we've got to kind of compromise a little bit here in order to present ourselves and represent ourselves and our policies without becoming divisive within our own community.
We've seen a few glimmerings of hope on the left now. Of course, Spain managed to retain the socialists as far as they're called, but were better than the alternative in government. And we see this new grouping of the left in France. And of course, although I dismiss the British election, it does reflect on what's happening. And, we're potentially seeing a move. Is it to the left? Well, arguably Starmer is moderately to the left of Sunak, but not much. But it is a reaction against the neoconservative politics pursued by the Conservative Party over the last 14 years. And of course, globally, we're seeing a resurgence to the left, particularly in Latin America. So, I don't think that the left certainly aren't even anywhere near a standing count, and we are making progress around the world. And I think it has been a sobering time. I think we always have to reflect on the position of global politics and local politics, and how we are best placed to intervene in order to improve the situation.
Now, thank you. And those observers of history will not be very surprised about what's going on at the moment, will they? That these swings, that and the tired kind of routines and methods of the blunt instrument of politics and how it's working. There, you have the sort of caricatures and characterizations of big political swings, pendulum-like swings from one to the other. People get fed up with one type of regime, with its blunt instrument sort of policies and effects on society. They scream for change, and those screams get progressively louder, and the activity and behavior at the ballot box gets characterized as more extreme. Interestingly, so there's no surprises there in a way, is there? That the pendulum is swinging back from left to right.
And you can take the pendulum even further, the analogy, because it's not a pendulum that is constantly powered with the same amount of force. And if you leave a pendulum without any power, of course, the swings will get smaller and smaller as they progress.
Yes.
And that represents the narrowing of the center of politics. But of course, the more that the center of politics narrows, and so that it matters less and less whether you have the Democrats or Republicans, the Conservatives or Labour, because they're all pretty much singing from the same hymn sheet, then in order to get the pendulum to move, in order to make any real difference in society, there has to be a push of power to make this pendulum swing. And of course, that push is only the weight of the electorate. The problem is, of course, that what tends to happen now is you get this big push from the electorate, policies swing, the electorate see no real difference because actually the party that was promising them sells out or gets undermined, and then the engagement in politics drops and the pendulum goes back to getting smaller and smaller in terms of its swing until the next big push, and that's how it goes.
It seems to be. And do you think that's? I mean, the dismal thing to me is that's how it might always go. And you used a very interesting description, which I don't hear very often. A lot of these moves to the right that people are observing and some are afraid of tend to be characterized as extreme, far right parties, the development thereof and the popularity thereof, it would appear. You used the phrase earlier on, if I'm not mistaken, anti-establishment vote. Do you think that's quite a new thing? And I think that's a fascinating angle. It is like what seems to happen from my point of view is you get this sense of anti-establishment. In fact, let me just bring in João Ernesto's comment here. I believe politics should only be about governance and facilitation. Now, that's a very small c conservative, British conservative way of seeing things, isn't it? Like let's keep it small. Let's let the other institutions of the state take care of society. And what we've seen happen is the Conservative Party has been infiltrated by a lot of money in recent years, hasn't it? So that's a reason why people, I think, become anti-establishment. Not only did they realize the game was against them, like George Carlin style, it's a club and you're not in it. We've always known that, but then it's like the establishment has really doubled down, made itself very wealthy, very powerful. And that's the reason why people are pushing back against what they see as the establishment. And that would account for, wouldn't it, some of the interest in Trump, for example, and some of the interest in Farage now. It just in a matter of 2 weeks, he's picked up on that anti-establishment vibe. And unfortunately, for somebody from your political position, it's wrapped up in all sorts of other political agendas, isn't it? Which you don't see so favorably. So how is it possible to be anti-establishment without being far right?
Oh yeah, because if you looked at the opinion polls and the questioning of people who voted for Trump in when was it now, 16, when Hillary Clinton got the Democrat nomination as opposed to Bernie Sanders. If you question those who supported Trump in that election, a healthy minority, and enough to have made the difference in the popular vote in America, said that if Bernie Sanders had been on the ballot paper, they would have voted for Bernie Sanders. They were not prepared to vote for the machine, which was represented by Clinton.
Yep.
And Trump managed to portray himself totally erroneously and fraudulently as an anti-establishment candidate. He wasn't anti-establishment in as much as he wasn't anti the power of the military-industrial capitalist complex. He was anti-establishment in as much as he wanted a small state with minimal intervention in personal freedom. And going back to what Zhao said, it's all very well saying you want it to be about governance and facilitation, but you've got to have some way of making a decision about policy. How do you decide how much social housing you're going to provide? How do you say how much social health care you're going to provide? How do you say who you're going to be friends with internationally, etc., etc.? And that governance and facilitation only is a very right-wing libertarian concept, because it basically says we're going to leave it to the market and to personal charity. And the market and personal charity is what failed in the 30s and what led to the social democratic contract in Western Europe, which said, okay, we're going to provide these things socially. We're going to provide healthcare, education, housing. We're going to do that in a kind of a development of the mutual fund approach of the 19th century. We're going to look after each other, but we're going to do that through the mechanics of government. And it was only when the profitability of capital started to decline in the 70s that capitalism said, oh, no, you're not, because we want to maintain our lifestyle. And so they started dismantling the social state and the fabric of the social state. And until that point, people were not anti-establishment, because the establishment, whether it was being run by the Conservative or the Labour Party, had this consensus view that social housing, social healthcare, social education were a good thing and didn't disrupt it. It was only when they had to disrupt it in order to maintain profitability and lifestyle for the rich that people started to become anti-establishment.
And therein lies the great issue of our times, I guess, in many ways, right? Because the people who would lean in your direction and think that the state is well positioned or should be in a position to oversee and make decisions on these things, successive people doing and trying that have slid, have they not, into the dazzling lights of more capitalistic approaches and been seduced away from that. Well, yeah, I can hear what you're putting there as a noble view for the care of our fellow beings, and the seduction takes place, doesn't it, where it becomes a little bit more self-interested and less for the common good. And that, I think, that it really does epitomise the big issue of politics at the moment.
I mean, you can see Wes Streeting, for example, who is going to be who potentially is going to be health minister, has taken huge amounts of funding from private healthcare, big private healthcare corporations.
Yes.
And that should not be allowed. It should be made absolutely illegal. I mean, you see this avaricious behaviour of both, mostly the Conservatives at the moment, but also Labour, But, faced with an election, how can I serve my electorate? No. How can I go down the bookies and put a decent bet on?
Well,
Go and have a good meal.
It's unbelievable.
Whether it's because I've lost or I've won.
To be fair, Doc, I don't think Wes is going to let those donations or whatever they're classified as subsidies, then he's not going to let them influence his decision making. Right. I'm always wary of those. Best laugh you've had for ages, right? I'm always wary of those who make politics a moral issue, claims of a high moral ground. That was me making a bit of mischief there, I think, Sherelle, as that makes it more akin to a religious fight, as in you're a good person if you'll agree with my party.
I think you're right. I agree. Yeah. And that is the way I see politics. And if you don't, that's fine. But that is how I see politics. And if you don't see politics like that, politics will not worry about how you get treated. Why should let me take this to the extreme and leave people with a question to mull over, because
homework.
We're getting towards the end. Okay. If we got rid of the social state, the majority would be okay. There will be a minority who will not. Why should the life expectancy, the education, the housing conditions of that minority be subject to the whims of personal charity? Okay. I just think that is morally impossible. You have to, if you want to claim to be an advanced society, you have to look after people, and you cannot look after people with any certainty without having a state that has functions to do that. And that is not about governance, and it is not about facilitation. Facilitation says, yeah, here, you can set up a charity and ask people for money. You can go and you can go and house people. You can go and give healthcare. That is facilitation, but it does not guarantee a right to those basic necessities.
No, and I hear you, absolutely hear you. And I think the other side of this, of course, with I suppose where fervor comes in and where the emotions are a driver, that's part of the shadow side from your point of view of the fervor and the emotional reaction in politics, is how the far right are summoned up as well, isn't it? It's the very same mechanism, but with a different result, I would say. It is absolutely crucial that people vote. Liz, thanks for joining us. Thanks for contributing from Paris this morning. It's absolutely crucial that people vote and do everything to keep this extreme right from taking hold of this beautiful country. And I think you're talking about France there, and destroy so many of its social values.
France or Portugal, I think both important.
It is a fear for some, that, isn't it? And just bringing back onto the screen these European election results, this also is part of the problem, isn't it, Doc? I mean, what is that? When people look at this, do they understand it? Can you get a sense of how influential, powerful, and useful the European Parliament is when it's these are the seats? And as I understand it, I saw some coalitions, a list of coalitions the other day, and it's like, the left-handed socialists who share a view on X policy. They're another group, and then there's 37 other groups that are sub-niches of that. This sort of thing turns people off politics, doesn't it? I think. Is there any way of simplifying this and making it more obvious to people so that they don't just have this emotional reaction of, I can't be doing with this. I need someone who speaks like plain language. Oh, yes. And we know who those people are, don't we?
Yeah, I think it's difficult because we now have 27 countries. They all rightly have their own political traditions, and they all rightly have the ability to have separate parties. And I think there's only one country there's only one political party in Europe that spans two countries, and that's Sinn Féin. Sinn Féin are active in both the south and the north of Ireland. Wow. But there is no other unitary political party that spans across borders. And so, and in fact, in some countries of Europe, you have such cultural diversity that it's difficult to get a unitary political party even as socialists. So, for example, in Belgium, you have the Walloon-speaking and the Flemish-speaking communities, and the socialists in the two sides have two different parties. In Spain, they have big regional differences, particularly Catalonia and the Basque Country, and so they have separate parties. And then, so you've got those different considerations. I think in terms of trying to understand where the European Parliament is, it would be much more helpful if we didn't have so many different coalitions. And there was a time where there were only 4 or 5. But when you expand the super state to 27 countries, and you start dealing with fractured politics, as we've seen over the last 20 years, it's absolutely understandable this happens. The only way you can simplify it is either to encourage the development of political parties across national boundaries, and I would be, as an internationalist, of course, very much in favour of that, and you would start potentially to see simplification. But the regionalists would cry, "Oh my goodness, no, we're going to lose our identity," which of course is also potentially going to happen. The need to the rights of national minorities in the Soviet Union. I'll go back to my to what was the great socialist experiment in the first few years of the Soviet Union. I'm talking pre-Stalin. But the rights of national minorities were very much discussed in the Communist Party, and how to protect those rights, but to maintain a single party event ended up, but even before it ended up as a single party system, a unitary approach to politics, which didn't favour fracture, but still allowed cultural rights and representation.
That sounds beautiful, doesn't it? And this is a nuance that's often forgotten in the tropic world of politics and the pejorative. Quick to the pejoratives, aren't we, in politics these days? And the time to discuss such things and to not be. I don't know. I guess it's what Joao's talking about here, and I know you know at a human level, you're both great humanitarians, and then there's the political level on top of that, isn't there? I agree with the need to provide basic necessities, says Joao. It is a matter of practicality and an effective society. I don't agree that it should be framed as a good versus evil thing. And Liz, finally, then, before we go to a couple of palate cleansing memes. Yes, talking about France, the next 2 weeks, voting 30th of June and 7th of July, will probably set off unprecedented turmoil, but keeping faith in humanity over it. Well, let's see, because I mean, this is of course is the fear now, isn't it, of tinderbox politics at the moment, is that a civil unrest and all sorts of difficulties will ensue as a result of this. Perhaps we need to talk about the opposite occurring, is that we might come to our senses as a result of the turmoil. That can happen sometimes as well, can't it? If you can't afford health insurance, it's a reason to want change in the US. Well, thank you, Mr. S, for your comments. To you, Joao F, and to Liz F for respectfully sharing your views. Much appreciated. Let's go to, as I say, palate cleansing memes from James. Tell me the truth. I'm ready to hear it. This could apply to politics as well, isn't it? Attachment to spiritual identity is ego too. Very good. Thank you very much for that. We're not just having to go up sort of overly attached political people. We're having to go at the spiritual people as well this morning here on the Good Morning Portugal show. And finally, I don't know if you're a Trekkie or not, Andy. Captain James T. Cook. I'm sorry, I can't hear you over the sound of how awesome I am. I think we should all have a little bit of that today, shouldn't we? Should we just pause for a moment and see how noisy it is when we consider how awesome we all are? Oh, that's loud, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's very loud. Andy, ow! I can't bear it. I'm just turning my headphones down now. Thank you very much for being here. Always good to chat with you, and have a great month, and see you again next month.
Yeah, cheers. Bye.
Okay, take care. Have a great day, everybody. And we'll see you tomorrow. Maybe see you at the San Martino de Porto meetup this lunchtime between 1 and 3 at the Palmeira Cafe. Not as Storytellers. We're back at the Storytellers next 4th Wednesday of next month, which will be July the 24th. Take care. Bye for now.
Bom dia, Portugal! In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.